What is the difference between industrial agriculture and small farm agriculture? To explain this, I'm going to use the concepts of monoculture and polyculture. But before we get into it, welcome to Chrysalis Chats. My name is Tanya, and this is where we talk about topics I feel are important in our collective societal transformation. Thank you for being here. Now, industrial farming uses what's called a monoculture planting method. And mono means one, right? We see that word everywhere. So monoculture is where we're going to plant just corn. You walk up to the field, that's all that's there. Just soybeans. Just carrots. Okay, whatever the case may be. Polyculture is usually used with small farming, and that's where we plant different things next to each other, and we might rotate our crops. We're going to do crop rotation. So if last year we planted beans here, and that was all we grew, the next year we're going to grow corn there, or the next year we're going to grow potatoes there. Okay, we're going to spice it up. We're going to change it. Whereas monoculture and industrial farming, which uses a lot of technology, okay, we'll talk about that in a second, that's just one crop, and we're going to deplete the land. We're going to deplete the soil. We're just going to get the lettuce. That's all we want. We're just going to get the lettuce. That's all we want, okay, in industrial farming. Now, in small farming, we're going to use that example of polyculture. Now, to explain that, let's take a look at the Three Sisters. If you haven't heard of the Three Sisters, cool, awesome. If you have, awesome. So Native Americans have used this technique for thousands of years, okay? And so basically, you plant corn, beans, and squash. Why? You plant the corn because you want corn. It's delicious. Hello. But corn requires a lot of nutrients out of the soil. So how do you avoid depleting your soil if you're going to know that you need that food year after year if you're living off the land? Well, you plant with it what's called a nitrogen fixer. So corn takes up a lot of nutrients. It's a nutrient sucking product, right? You plant next to it beans, which are a nitrogen fixer. Upwards of 70% of our atmosphere, of the air, right, around us, is nitrogen. To convert that nitrogen that's in this gaseous form into a usable format for the plant, you need to ground it in these little white nodes that you'll see growing on the plant itself, such as a bean or another member of the legume family like peanuts, okay? So these magical plants like beans convert nitrogen from the air into the soil. They ground it from a gas into a substance that is physical, that this plant, this corn plant, can absorb, okay? So around that, you'll plant squash in this Native American technique. And why? Why is that? Why? Because squash prevents the weeds from popping up around your corn and your beans. Okay? It works in symbiotic relationships. The corn is going to take all the nutrients, sure, but in return, it's providing an armature for the beans to grow up, a trellis, an eco-trellis, okay, for the beans. An extension of that, the squash is protecting all the plants because it's prickly or whatever, and it can protect against whatever critters maybe, right? But, you know, the weeds are a threat. You don't want to have a bunch of weeds popping up around your plant, competing for nutrients or whatever. So the squash prevents that, okay? So you see, this is small farming. It's polyculture, okay? Now another small farming technique I want to talk about is permaculture. You will see farmers in orchards, if they have a lick of sense, they will be using permaculture. So they're going to be taking things like borage. Borage is this awesome, beautiful blue flower. It creates a star. It's about this big, the little flower, but the plant is pretty big, right? And it tastes like cucumber. Some people say it tastes like watermelon, but you can eat the flower. You can also use the flower to create simple syrups and other cool stuff, okay? But bees love it. This is the buzz on borage, okay? Pollinators love borage. Now, why? If we're thinking as a small farmer, we're using our brains here, okay? Why would you want to plant borage next to an orchard or next to a tree? Say we're growing cherries. Why would you do that? Well, you would do that because it's summoning in the bees, which are going to pollinate the blossoms on your flower tree and produce more fruit. Because to get a fruit, you need the help of a pollinator, right? So that is permaculture. It is thinking in polyculture, right? It is thinking in terms of symbiotic relationships with the land. And it's also thinking in terms of perennials, I should mention as well. So if you're thinking about beneficial plants and how you're going to place them in a garden, and you're thinking strategically about that, you are using permacultural, polycultural methods of farming and food production. Congratulations. Now, I was in Marin County once, okay, and I met this awesome farmer. I believe his name was Steve. And Steve was telling me that, you know, Tanya, there's a difference between industrial organic and small farm organic. He was a small farm organic kind of farmer, okay? But he was explaining to me that a lot of times there's people producing lettuce for the sake of lettuce, and they're using these farming techniques that literally involve machines coming in to harvest the crop, and they use lasers to just like cut a head of lettuce, like zzz, across the whole field, and they take the lettuce and they throw it into a vegetable, and that's it. That's the relationship with the food. It's like a machine with a laser, and oftentimes that's like very disconnected from the human element, right, of farming. And so it's interesting, to say the least, okay? But again, you can look back at my other video on conventional, organic, and GMO and kind of differentiating that. A lot of times, industrial agriculture, it is, you know, more conventionally rooted in terms of the substances being placed in the land. However, people, companies, corporations have seen the value, okay, of organic, because people are demanding organic, because we are waking up to the fact that it's healthier for our bodies and the earth. And so there is such a thing as industrial organic, and I want you to be aware of that when you go and you look at the different labels at the store. Now granted, everybody's going to make the decisions right for them. I'm merely here to provide you the information. I will say there are 50 shades of green in this whole thing, right? Just as there are nuances in any given black or white polarized situation, okay? So congratulations for being here. Thank you for delving into this question. I hope that clarified for you that some differences between industrial and small farm agriculture. Thank you for being a member of the Collective Awakening. I appreciate you. You are a beautiful butterfly in process. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel, like it, okay? And just let me know that you appreciate it. Let me know what you think. Let's start a conversation in the comment section. Thank you. Have a great day.